This video is going to show you solo Grandmaster Nightfall, getting Platinum rank, and this video is aimed at you getting the Triumph for the Gilded Seal. Mainly for that. The Platinum rank is here though as well, so the rewards are there if you want to farm the Duty Bound Auto Rifle. I wouldn't highly recommend it though, because it's not that good of a weapon if I'm being completely honest. But I guess for those of you just for the extra information that I provide. So as we start with this initial setup, you want to lead with a grenade as soon as possible to clear out as many adds as possible. As there's a couple of backpack cabal, there's 2 or 3 scions. Spawn killing those is handy when you start to do with the champions. Your next goal is to bait the unstoppable to you. Now I'm spicing things up by using a loadout that we all know ability wise, but weapon wise sort of changing up just a little bit by using a weapon that I've used in previous GMs and Master Nightfalls, which is the exotic sidearm Devil's Ruin. Now the reason why I wanted to use it again in GMs is because acute burn is now a thing, so we now have a burn on our weapons, which overall, having played with it, it's a better thing. It's actually better for the player that this has happened. So I wanted to see what Devil's Ruin's like, and I'm not just saying it, but it's actually decent. You can see the amount of damage it's doing to champions and stuff. It's going to be a little slower because I'm not using the absolute optimal run for weapon wise. I mean, I've got the Hung Jury on, the kinetic scout rifle with the anti-barrier obviously, and the Ascendancy solar rocket. The only reason why I'm using Ascendancy, which is because it's accessible to anybody, and there's not a lot of good solar rockets in the game, if we're being honest, apart from exotic versions like Galahorn or Two-Tailed Fox, which is actually void and solar, not just it's not just void, it's both. I was toying with the idea of doing either a Two-Tailed or Devil's Ruin. So I went with Devil's Ruin. I thought that would be maybe a little bit more interesting, because actually Two-Tailed Fox destroys, and I think people are starting to be aware of how good it is. So with this, after you get through the room, you want to take down the Thresher with 2 rockets. You have a choice though. You don't have to do that. It's not key that you do it. You can actually let the Thresher despawn, save rockets if you wish, then start fighting the adds. You just hide back in the room. The Thresher has a pattern if you like. He'll go right, then left, shoot a little bit, and then despawn. If you want to do that, you can do that. But if you're not, I recommend put 1 or 2 rockets in there at least. One thing I've learned, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but you can actually track rockets on Threshers, which I thought it was broken. You'll see me later on do that. I think, at least I hope I do. You can track Threshers by aiming at their lower section. The whole area of the Thresher doesn't count for tracking, but the lower section does, and I can't believe I've learned that out. I've been playing Arms Dealer since 2017. This strike's so old, and I didn't know that about Threshers, but I guess I do now. Your key in this area is mainly snipers and nade and middle as much as possible. You need to be grenade and middle as much as possible and debuffing all the adds and getting, you know, those grenade kills, because your grenade is the most powerful tool that you have available to you on this build anyways, at least. Once a certain amount of adds are killed, the unstoppable champion will spawn. That doesn't mean if you clear both snipers, the unstoppable spawns. The snipers can still be up because you might have cleared out more legionaries. So you can get yourself into a bit of a bad shape if you don't take out the snipers before the phase of the unstoppables. And if you do, bait the unstoppable all the way back to a safe zone. I'm just using Devils here to sort of save up on ammo. That's what I sort of view this weapon as. It's better than like an unstoppable pulse or a hand cannon, because it's got that burst damage, but it's taking up an exotic slot, so it's not optimal, obviously. But in some content that I go over, you know, that I've went over like tons of times, like Arms Dealers for one, I like to change the loadouts up. I don't want to use the meta runs because it's boring enough as it is, you know. So I'd rather just sort of use something that people might just sort of want to watch a little bit more. What I'm doing here is I'm taking the next phase step by step. Now, how do you do that? Well, you don't bring the relic here. Okay, if you bring the relic here, you will spawn in the champ that's in front of me. You will spawn in dogs and another fresher. So if you want to make this bit easier for you, don't do that. You'll also get 2 silent snipers. So that's a lot of stuff that can just melt you quickly, because obviously they're all doing solar apart from the champion. So first things first, take the initial champion that spawns. See this ultra, you do not need to take him. He's not required, and he will de-aggro as long as you leave him alone. He may nade you here, just be careful sort of that, but for the most part the major will de-aggro. You want to take out the dogs with a nade if you can. There's 3 dogs, I believe, and then the 2 snipers. As soon as you take out one sniper, the other sniper will de-aggro and go for safety where the other champion is. You want to take that sniper out before that happens, because then you're going to provide yourself a little bit of a problem, because there's only a couple of spots you can take this champion from. Now, in this run, I'll be honest, I was a little bit rusty. I haven't played Destiny for a good 5-6 days. Okay, I've been playing other stuff because I've sort of like got over the Witch Queen thing. I've sort of played most of the stuff I've wanted to do that. I've got the titles I've wanted to get. Loot-wise, there's still loot that I need to get. There's still crafted weapons that I need to do, but all that stuff's grindy, and I'm hoping, you know, things start to sort of ease off that way. So I've done a lot of playtime this season, so that's why I'm sort of slowing down a little bit with content wise. And not only that, I've got the Gilded Seal, the Conqueror Gilded Seal. I already have it. I got it day 1 because I decided to go for the team run rather than the solo day 1 type thing. So I went the team route, but what I didn't have foresight of is that those Grandmasters would not be available to me until they are featured, i.e. Lightblade, Birthplace of the Vile, and that sort of, I was a bit narked by it. I should have remembered that, but also I'm a bit narked that you can't just select your GM. They want to stop people farming stuff, but that's not the answer, alright? Not having the GM nodes available. So that's why I sort of made a little post a few days ago saying each GM I'll just do as it comes up, you know, as providing I'm free that week, I'll cover it. So I did cover Scarlet Keep, and I'm covering Arms Dealer now, and I'm just doing get it done version, or easily version, rather than, you know, sort of trying to do too much of a technical run. However, I do try and, you know, change things up a little bit. I'm using, you know, Devil's Rune, which you don't see every day, and it is actually a decent weapon, but it's a sidearm, and it's not a weapon that's strong in GMs, of course. That little tactic there of nading that door is really critical to making this a little bit easier, because it spawn kills all he has. It means you can focus on the Legionary and then the Champ, and it just deals with things more optimal. That, you know, so we'll get a debuff on the Champ as well. Try and do that as much as possible, which we've got fragments wise, Echo of Undermining, Expulsion and Remnants. I just run this setup 95% of the time on a Warlock. Fragments, Feed the Void, Chaos Accelerant, Contraverse Hold, Exotic Gauntlets. So it's the general setup that you'll see on the Voidwalker. I would have liked to go Dawnblade and stuff, but obviously I'm going to show you what happens at the boss, and I'm sure if you're watching it, you're going to already know what I'm going to be doing with that. But if you don't, because let's not just assume everyone knows everything, because that's not true. There's people that watch stuff, that learn stuff all the time, and they're starting the game, they're picking the game up. They might have only picked up the game when Witch Queen launched, or they might have started Season of Splicer or Season of whatever. So not everyone knows everything, right? It seems to me a lot of people you talk to, they'll say, oh, well, I started D1 beta. But then when you quiz them, there's a lot of stuff they don't know. And that's not just because of them, that's just because they might not know. There's stuff that I don't know. So if I cover everything in the vid, then I've catered to players who don't know, and if you already knew, then that's fine. You can skip the part what you want to watch. These Grandmaster Souls aren't really designed for you to watch the whole thing. Maybe not this one. I guess Lightblade, Birthplace of the Vile, Glassware, You know, although how hard GMs, you would probably want to see the whole thing, but with like arms dealer, probably not. If you know that you if you're accustomed to this particular Nightfall. This section, there's no required target, only one champion. If you want to go for plat, you still need to take him. Okay, I believe so anyways. I don't think you can skip any champs. I haven't tested it though, because it seems to be in each GM you can skip, not every GM, but a lot of GMs, you can skip at least one champion minimum and still get plat. I haven't tested that to see if you can actually skip him and still get plat, but I wouldn't recommend it because it's a bit of a long haul. It's not that it's a long strike, it just feels dragged out, especially when you get to the boss, and then the boss is quite tanky because it's on Grandmaster mode. So, but if you're going to take this barrier, this is the thing. You've got to master de-aggroing and aggroing adds. So I'm trying to get that sniper. There's two snipers. This is very dangerous. Because of acute burn, solar burn is 50% for the enemy. Now, that isn't the same for every type of ad. Like the boss can one-shot you. He's a sniper. This major can't. The scions can't. If you've got double solar resist, the Thermoshock seasonal mod that you saw the load out at the start of the video, as long as you've got double solar, you shouldn't. And if your resilience is too low, however, you may still. But the danger is I'm getting sniped by him while trying to deal with this barrier. I'm not willing to use a rocket right now, and I haven't got Loosen Finisher on because I went double bomber on my class piece. Loosen Finisher is a class piece mod. I could have went a dungeon armor piece and went that route with it. But at the end of the day, as long as I got my rocket finder on, my rocket scav, I'll get the ammo for the most part when I want it. Alright, so I didn't go with the Loosen Finisher, but if you want to go Loosen Finisher, I wouldn't say it's a bad move, I would say you're very smart. So if you want to do it, do it. But make sure you got the stats there. You want the 100% discipline and the 100% recovery. Make sure you got high stats on those. Right, at the very least 100% discipline and then as high recovery as you can get. Okay, because it's really important, because you will be there forever at the boss if you don't do that little if you don't optimize your stats that way. So with the double tank room, this is also kind of dangerous because we're standing here and the tank can actually kind of catch you off surprise and kill you with the burst attack that it does. It will one shot you. Here's the thing with this. Here's what's very interesting. After a certain amount of percentage of adds that are killed, some of the legionnaires will back up. I would like to say it's 50%. It's around about half of them. I don't know exactly. So take your moment to try and get a lot of nade kills on them. Right? Then I'll push up. I am in no rush to melt that tank. I'm not going to use rockets when under Echo of Undermining or my debuff isn't applied, because I'm losing damage there by doing that. So I'd rather just, right, let's do a bit of damage to the tank, let's do a bit of damage to the adds. Once the adds de-aggro like you saw, then I can push up out and I use the super, etc. You know, I'll use a rocket or two, but I won't spam my rockets because Ascendancy's not, it hasn't got field prep. It's a very good rocket, but Explosive Light indirectly got nerfed because of the changes to Masterwork orbs on Masterwork weapons. And here's my problem. I mean, you can generate orbs. It's just a little bit of a nuisance because it's like I want ashes to assets on my helmet, which is a helmet mod. I want at least one rocket finder, right, just to sort of give me something, you know. So I've got to pick and choose between either do I want Masterwork orbs, you know, and utilize Explosive Light, or do I just want more ammo of that chosen weapon? I just want more ammo. So you won't see me utilizing Explosive Light. So yeah, I could have really just put on Chain Reaction on because you've got a choice, haven't you, on Ascendancy. So if you want to do that, do that. I used Impulse Amplifier just because of the reload and the stats that it gives. I'm not a huge fan of Ambitious Assassin because I'm not really a player that uses lots of rockets on adds. I like to use rockets, stuff like that, on champions and key critical moments of a particular Nightfall. Now, what I'm talking about here is very specific to what I'm exactly doing. That's not a general statement, that's me saying, this is how I play in GMs. This is how I play in Gambit. Gambit's a different game mode entirely. Strikes are a different game mode entirely. Raids, etc. So the playstyle changes, alright? So when I'm talking about something, referring to something, don't quote me and say, well, that doesn't sound right. It does sound right for what we're actually doing in the video right now, how we're playing now. Because you have to play to the GMs. You don't play around the GMs. You play to what the GMs are, and your weapons and you're managing your ammo, etc. You can't go around spamming. Obviously, if you got Lucen's Finisher, you can, and I've been highly recommending using Lucen's Finisher all season long. There's still people not using it. I'm just not using it because it's for a very specific purpose for the boss fight using double bomber, which it'll become clear if you watch that bit. So with the double barrier champions, there's different ways of taking them. You can take them from a range. The right side of the room's no good because they de-aggro once you get one shield breaker. Behind me you can do it, but they also de-aggro. So what I like to do is sort of push up to this area, so they push like they peek over the edge, if you like, so you can see their head. And the goal is to definitely melt one of the barriers down. If you want to use a Nova there, definitely. Nova rocket debuff with your nade, it's critical. Because once you get that one barrier down, the RNG is sort of removed. You're less likely to get killed from a champion peeking from your right or your left. And you can then, after one champion is killed, you've isolated. You're down to one, so you can isolate that champ, and then it's significantly easier than it is with two, because they can do their blinding nade attack, all that stuff. So you've just got to sort of, and if they do their blinding nade attack, your plan B is to go right into that wall as close as you can, and the shots won't hit you. So we've got a finisher kill on him. That wasn't Lucen finisher though, of course. We activated the first switch over there. I'm just checking that I have. Because if you don't do this, like I honestly forgot on the run if I'd done it or not. But if you do, just go and check it. Just take 20 seconds. Make sure you do that one first, because it gives you the like 5-10 seconds of burst damage on the tank, which is really handy. Because if you can spawn kill the tank, the quicker you do that, the better it is. Because the tank can, as I say, one-shot you if you're caught off guard. It can happen to anyone. So it's just a case of be careful with that. I'll just use a super. I know it's going to hit the initial phalanxes, but I'm just going to use it with my nade and then 2 rockets. I might even do another. Then I'm going to sort of back up. If you can see, there's a pillar in front of me where the tank can't actually see me. So I'm going to do a bit of stun damage to an unstoppable, get some, AoE damage on them as they're grouped up, and then we're going to back up because the tank's not quite killed yet. If I'd had explosive light on, if I'd utilised my like a high energy fire set, with the explosive light orbs set up, then I would have been a bit better. Actually, with high energy fire, would have worked out good. Like an elemental charge thing, I could have went that route. My build was very simple because I didn't really want to do, a huge thing on the build. It was more about the stats. My emphasis was recovery, discipline. Don't worry about elemental ordnance or font of wisdom or this, that, and the other. Because in the ideal world, as long as you've got the knowledge and you've got the stats, you're good to go with this GM in particular. There's no build required. The build is that you've got Contraverse hold on, high discipline, and you're using good weapons. I mean, if you wanted to not use what I was using and you maybe use something a bit more efficient, use Le Monarch, use Tigers, and then with a good solar rocket, or go Galley, or Two-Tailed Fox, like I said, because Two-Tailed Fox will get the benefit to the solar rocket. It does void and solar, but it will get the benefit to the solar. But just make sure you play into that burn. Play to the burn, you're good to go. So these are the 3 unstoppables. What I'm doing here is trying to group them up. I'm trying to capitalise. There's 2 unstoppables to the right, and obviously there's 1 right in front. But doing damage here is not bad with my setup, because I can stun multiple champs at once with Devil's Ruin. Especially when you sort of, flick it left to right, the beam, because it doesn't need to be the whole beam to stun the champ. Just a little bit of the beam needs to hit that champ. You can stun 3 champions, basically. They're all grouped up well enough. So you notice we've run out of rockets. This is where Loose and Finisher would have come in. That's fine though. That's where we'll substitute with this weapon, you know, and sort of use it like that. And it's not bad. I'm not taking too long with these Unstoppables. You know, I could certainly be taking longer. So it's doing well, but it's the acute burn that's making it do well. So, but that's why I kind of like these acute burns. What I didn't like about it was the communication that Bungie gave to us to say about the acute burns. They specifically said, this is just a master modifier. It's for master, nightfalls and below. We're going to check progress to see how it goes. Then day one Conqueror comes out, it's there. It leaves you unprepared, because then you've got to sort of start on the go. Right, I need arc rockets. I need Tarantula. I need Freddy Needle. I need Royal Entry. I need Time Lost Season Vengeance. I need this, I need that. Whereas I might not have had them ready, prepped, 15, 16, or infused, ready to go. So it left people off the mark with that. It left me off the mark. So I was a little peeved off that way. If they just come out and said, we want to give Nightfalls burns, I'm all for it. Give us Prism back. Let's go that route. If they give us these burns, and people are enjoying them for the most part, and I know there's people going bang on about the resistance values, but they have said, you know, run resistance on your chest plate. They're wanting us to, like, for people who aren't clued up with resistance, which is a lot of people out there, there's basically mini teaching people about the resistance. They're sort of saying, look, start running resistance. And obviously there's some players out there that have run resistance for the longest time. But there's some people just aren't still aware of it because they're playing in teams and not really noticing. If they are getting one shot, then the teammates resin them. But in solo play, that's not a thing, is it? So that's where the solo players are spending way more attention to detail, you know, and that's the difference. But if you start running your resistances and not be running reserves and all that stuff, you know, start running the right stuff, then you'll find the GMs, it makes a huge difference just running the right resistance and double up on them resistances as well. So we filled up on heavy. Make sure that you do. Obviously this rocket holds 7, so we're making sure we'll max on that for the next room. This is the final room before the boss. So this is going to be the last sort of good advice I can give you for this room. It's not terribly hard at all. You can die with RNG. There is a bit of RNG if you stand in certain locations. Ads can teleport in this room. There's a high chance of that. But it all depends where you stand. In this little area here, where I'm standing, where I'm saying that you probably shouldn't, ads can teleport. But what I'm wanting to do is try and get a nade on the turrets. I missed my nade, so that's unfortunate. But I was getting pressured by this legionary. That's why I ended up doing that. But what I was trying to do is just get a nade on the turrets. But it's not required. I can take the turrets down from below, which you're going to see me do that. That will then de-aggro the boss to the next bridge. That's how he works. You can either do that where you take out the 3 turrets, he de-aggros, or do damage to him. The only problem with that is while you're doing damage to him, the turrets are going to be melting you, so don't do that. We're going to just speed this up a little bit. I went and used a rocket and a Nova. I was planning on to Nova that Unstoppable from the start though. Just be careful of the Unstoppables, because when they die, their dead bodies, sometimes they can be sort of shot and explode on you and one-shot you. It's happened to me actually in, what's that Nightfall called? Proving Grounds. Proving Grounds, it happened to me, and man, I just didn't know what happened. So that can happen. So let their body despawn. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it just lies there. But their backpack, if their backpack isn't exploded by you while you're killing them, the backpack's still there, and the enemies can shoot that backpack and kill you. It's actually very interesting, but it's actually also annoying if it happens to you. So this is where I like to stand for this section here, because this champion is now de-aggro. This is a classic example of what happens when ads de-aggro, and that's great if a champion does, because it's anti-barrier scout this season. So I can just scout this champion down. I mean, I can't get a good grenade on it. I'd have to throw a good grenade. You have to be right over that bridge and right on him. You can do that. Try and get a debuff if you can. If you can't, you can't. Doesn't matter. Main thing is just getting one of the champions down, because when you get one of them down, it's significantly easier rather than having to, you know, fight 2 barriers. They do their blinding, they're doing their arc blast attack. a Legionnaire throws a grenade, you have to de-engage. You have to disengage that. If you don't, you will probably die. Look at that one nade that Legionnaire got on me. I got nearly, my shields broke. Because their radius is quite large. Now if they stick you, it could be game over at that point. So I don't think they do one-shot you if you've got the double solar. If you say you've only got one solar, the resilience isn't right by your character, you know, your stats, then it can be game over. So try not to be stuck by the nades. Scorched Earth, the modifier is on, adds significantly are more likely to grenade you while you're hiding behind cover. So that's the nades. As soon as you see a nade, you call it out, especially team play. Nade, call it out, because people get lazy. They don't want to move because they're wanting to shoot, aim down sights, this whatever they're wanting to focus on. So I'll be alright, I'll survive it, and then they don't. So don't let the nades catch you out, because that'll be the biggest thing. So now I'm just going to basically just use my scout. I wasn't sure if I had any heavy bricks to pick up, but it's critical. I think it's critical that you go to the boss with 7 rockets. Not 6, not 5, not good enough. 7. Okay? Because the less rockets you have, the more chances you increase of dying at the boss. And that's not what you don't want to do that. So yes, don't only use rockets on these last couple of champions if there's rockets on the floor to use. Now there was no brick on the floor, I don't think. So I just wasn't. I was just gonna melt him down with my grenade and my scout. Let this grenade and the scout do it. It's gonna take longer, but I don't give a hoot about time for this. So that was the thinker behind it. Now I'll just take out this last orange bar. I was wanting to use the sidearm on it, which does good. It does good damage within the range. This ad is out of my range, so that's why it wasn't doing max damage. But the point is, we're just taking him safely. Obviously, we get a brick, it drops below the elevator. Obviously, that's going to happen all day. That. One thing I've made a mistake here is don't activate the lift. I've activated the lift too soon, not thinking. Make sure you don't do that, because that then spawns in the ads. That is trigger number 1. Once all ads are killed, trigger number 2 is to step on that lift. Then the fight initiates as normal. Halfway up the lift, the boss will then peek his head over and show you, you better do damage. You can get a ton more damage on him if you do what I'm doing now. You climb the chain. Now I'm lucky because the Legionnaire didn't die. So that that condition hasn't met yet. So I'm lucky. So I'll leave the Legionnaire alive. The better thing would have been not to activate the lift, climb the chain, come back down, then activate lift, spawn kill ads, then get on the lift. But I kind of messed it up that way, but that's fine. There was 1 ad left. So I've done the chain trick. I've jumped as high as I can. Just go as high as you can. This spawns in the boss earlier. Luckily I get a brick and it falls right on the elevator. If that happens, that's fantastic. If it doesn't, you can still get away with it though. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to do rocket hide, because he can one-shot you, this boss. So your movement's got to be on point. Right, so just do the rocket hide. Spam all your rockets if possible. Or maybe leave 1 or 2 left. But I obviously had a brick on the elevator. So I'm going to use as many rockets as I can. When he does his little maneuver, whatever that is, where he's spawning these turrets, that's your chance to do your Nova and your Oppressive Darkness Nade. Do all that. That should get you to a 3rd damage. I've got obviously some rockets because I had an additional brick on the elevator. But even with the 7 rockets, the Oppressive Nade and the Super will be enough to get this boss a 3rd damage. Because if you don't do that, the boss will not shield. He will jump on his podium, and he'll snipe you all day long. And it's a danger, because what happens then is the Thresher spawns in when he shields his dome, and you've got a Centurion, stuff like that. So I'm just going to do some damage to Thresher and use my movement. The turrets are up to my left and they keep activating, so I've got to sort of strafe left and right. This is sort of the most difficult thing of the whole thing, the whole run, doing it like this. because I didn't take out the turrets initially. But I believe this is a bit safer way of getting shot of the boss. It's just a little dangerous here with the fresher, but as long as you sort of look at where those missiles are going and just strafe left and right. Stay out of all your nades. Take out the legionnaires. This is where you need to stand, by the way. It's critical that you do that. Don't stand anywhere else unless you're on a hunt or on invis. Then take out your turrets and then you're done. That is literally it. That is the run and then you're done. Obviously that's why now it'll make sense why I'm on Voidwalker and we're just going to use our nade to do the damage. There are certain weapons, other weapons that can penetrate the bubble. I think Anarchy, it used to be able to. I assume that it probably still can. But I haven't tested that to know that. But if it does, Anarchy could be a top tier pick. The only thing is you're lacking a solar rocket. So at the same time, probably not. So this is where we're just going to stand. So I'll just show you one rotation and I'm going to speed it up. You do a nade below the plate where he's standing and then you heal and rift. You do a nade and then you heal and rift. The heal and rift bomber, like ×2, will stack, right? So you get more great energy that way. That's essentially what we were doing. Just because you're nading for a good 12-15 minutes, getting more nades actually speeds it up. Right? So getting bomber, it's going to knock 5 minutes off it. A good 5, 6, maybe even 10 minutes, I don't know. But it's going to speed the whole thing up, isn't it? And it's kind of, as I said, it is going to be boring this for you. This is why I've sped it up. But yeah, it's just grenade. You can't do damage with your Nova, not from what I've saw. I tried doing it, unless I'm missing something. I don't think you ever could really. It was just the nade. But obviously, make sure you got Vortex Grenade on. That's something I didn't point out. Scatter Grenade isn't going to work. None of those nades. And that's pretty much it. So this is just, as I say, a video on how to get it done. The first half of the video is going to be obviously more useful to you than, you know, this is just me telling you this is what you do. You go away and do it for the boss fight. It's pretty simple. But yeah, that was the solo GM for the Warlock getting Platinum rank and for the Triumph for the Gilded Seal. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.